Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's time to get this party started. Coffee time with Mike. Hey, everybody. How's it going? All right. Welcome to our second live stream view, Coffee Time with Mike. I'm excited to be sharing all this with you guys today. We have some great stuff on the docket, and thank you for all the feedback that I got from our last episode. And I'm so grateful that you guys were able to make it to this episode here. Here again, during this time, feel free to kick some comments out there. If you want, just give me a hello or whatever you got going on. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys as we go through this. So to start off with, I just want to say welcome. Thank you for coming again. Look forward to continue to do these on Wednesdays, noon, Alaska time with you guys. And yeah, and I hope everybody's staying warm and not getting stuck in all the ruts and the crazy madness that's out there. I think it's raining now on top of our 1.5 feet of snow. So today, we're going to be talking about staying safe in a remote world. And so when we talk about staying safe in the remote world, we're talking about cybersecurity for businesses and for, what that looks like, especially as we're doing things like snow days and our kids are off for another week due to not making it through because of the lack of plowing and all that other fun stuff. But we've had our share of opportunities. We had this happen a little while back. I don't need to get into details. We're all familiar of which was a really big event for a multitude of reasons, especially for us here at Alaska Computer Support, because we had a lot of people that now needed to take systems home. And so when they took those systems home, now the companies doubled out the number of computers that they were using because most people have desktops at their offices. A lot of them have laptops that they work with when they go traveling. And then most people have computers at home as well. And so the other part of this is bring your own device, BYOB. And so one of the things that we have to start to look at, as we're going to be looking at today, is the increase in cyber attacks, what those cyber attacks are, and who they're targeting. One of the biggest targets that we're seeing right now are the remote users. And a lot of it's happening through either phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, malware. They're super prevalent. They're just everywhere. So when we talk about phishing attacks, it's not the phishing attack that we all like in the summertime, but rather it's when people are throwing stuff at us and emails. And so emails is the most common way for a phishing attack. And so remote workers are really susceptible to such attacks because they're in less secure environments. They're going to be inside their home networks, which really blurs the lines between the professional and personal devices. And that can cause a lot of problems. The next component is going to be ransomware threats. And so, inside of our environment, depending on who you're using, hopefully us, and if you are using us, then our endpoint protection does protect against that ransomware. But if you have end users and it's not protecting on those guys, then they might be able to find a way to cause a lot of havoc in your environment across ransomware, especially if you're using cloud services. So check out this scenario for a second. You have one of your employees working from home. They decide to take a little break and they start surfing through some of their emails, cleaning some of that up. And there's some junk. They click a button. Next thing you know, boom, ransomware strikes because that machine wasn't protected properly. And next thing you know, they had a cloud drive that they were attached to that's part of your organization. And now all of those files inside of your cloud drive just instantly get ransomware. Well, with most cloud services, we're going to be able to do a rollback on that. But now start doing the math. So, and what I mean by that is now you're down for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, while that recovery process, ransomware strikes hard, strikes fast, and can attack a lot of different files and file structures. And so, but in the math that I'm talking about is the multiplying of lost labor hours. If we walk into an environment, we take away everybody's computer, what are they going to do? And a lot of times that's just lost labor. And so that's not good at all. And so the other thing that comes into the play here as we're talking about the cybersecurity challenges with being in the office, outside the office, working remotely, is this use of personal devices, the BYODs, bring your own device. So a lot of times they just lack the security that we need. And we're going to see that lack happen inside of everything from phones, iPhones, not so much, but when we get into the Android world, we do see more issues there. Tablets, same kind of thing. Apple's really protect their software because of the way it goes through the Apple Store. Unless somebody's done something funky to an Apple device, which is called jailbreaking. You don't just have unauthorized software on those devices. And Apple's pretty good about keeping that locked down. But when we get into the Android world, that's not the case. And that's one of the pros of Androids, is that I get the choices and the freedom to load a lot of different software on there that just won't run on an Apple device because for whatever reason, it can't make it through the Apple store. But here again, we're not here to debate Apple's, Androids, that kind of stuff. But what we are talking about is that security, that endpoint protection. So on those Android devices, we are going to need some kind of protection software, and we can help you guys out with that. The next thing is going to be cloud security. When we get into these cloud security things, passwords are huge. Data breaches are huge. We're going to talk more about data breaches in the news section today. There was a big one. And when we really start to dive into that, we'll find out how scary that is. So, a lot of us are using cloud-based services, and that's where passwords are so important. We can't just have default passwords that 5 different people use the exact same password that they haven't changed in 20 years. So we have tool sets and things for that. Sneak peek, it's called LastPass. Talked about it last session, going to talk about it this session. It's something we need to get everybody using more of. LastPass is a great tool. We do use LastPass. We do resell the LastPass. That is part of our tool set stack, and I'd like to see you guys on it. It helps our environment stay safe, because at the end of the day, the safer we keep you guys, the more uptime you have, and the less challenges we come across. Because what happens is when we have end users that cause these security breaches and these security problems, we're there to save the day, and we have to rely on tool sets to do that. We have to rely on our cleanup tools and all kinds of stuff like that to dive in, as well as backups, and as well as the functionality in our cloud services. And so, we have to be auditing those cloud services and make sure that rollback functionality is part of what we're paying for. And, a lot of times running these free plans, that's not really going to cut it. And a lot of times, depending on who the provider is and how you guys are getting that service, it's not going to happen the way you think it is. You can't just reach out to Microsoft and say, hey, Microsoft, help me with my Office 365. You have to have a middle ground, a middleman to jump in that to help bridge that gap, just because that's the way that they work. And so it's great to work with professionals that can help you with these security concerns. The next one's insider threats. And so really what we talk about, that's been a huge growing, and it's partially due to the difficulties in monitoring employee activities remotely. So both, the intentional data breach or unintentional data breaches, and the mischievous person on the inside who poses significant risks. And so, how do we mitigate that? Number one, know our staff, know our things. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not intentional. It just kind of depends on what's going on in the different environments. Another big one that we have to look at are VPN segments. When we're talking about these VPNs, which are virtual private networks, so basically a couple different ways to do remote control work. One is that we have a home office, right? Home office, and then we have end users out in the field, and they connect. And so what they do is they spin up a piece of software called a VPN. It can be in the firewall, it can be a software-based VPN, which attaches to a server, a whole bunch of different ways to do it. And so what happens is the firewall goes, hey, I'm your VPN. And then the software on the client side goes, yes. And it creates this secure connection there that allows this tunnel of secure data to exist. And so that way, the rest of the internet's not really monitoring or seeing what the security is on that information there that's passing back and forth. And that really is supposed to keep hackers out. Now, one of the thins you have to think about is when this handshake happens, well, how is that happening? Well, there's encryption keys on both sides. They have to match up. There's usernames and passwords. But if I have weak usernames or weak passwords with discoverable usernames that might match like what a domain controller is broadcasting or what an email address is that's being used by somebody, then I can cause these vulnerabilities in these VPN setups. And so the other thing too is firmware upgrades. So here again, we've talked about this before, where software updates, especially in hardware, is critical. And so often we see that that's not the case of what's happening. And so, these companies that build these devices and build this hardware, they publicize what the vulnerabilities are. They put out these lists every time. Hey, here's the updates that you need to do, and this is why you need to do them, because this part was broken. We fixed it. But, the problem is if only hackers are reading that, then where's that leave us? We think we're protected, but really we're not. And especially when then we're relying on your employee's home router to help facilitate that, that is definitely a recipe for disaster. So AI and security, this has been another big component of what's been coming down the pike. AI is showing up everywhere. We will do a segment on AI, how you can make AI work for you, the pros and cons of AI, and that'll be coming up here in the next episode. But one of the things that they're doing now is they're able to use AI in a good way. We use AI in our protection engine, and so that's how we stop the ransomware. It's really smart in the way that it looks at things. It's very controlled in the way it looks at things. You know, the AI is just not monitoring everything you're doing on your computer, reporting back to Big Brother or anything like that. It's a tool. And so, but the bad guys get to use those tools too. And so we have to look at the way that those tools are showing up, and we have to look at the way that we're able to handle those. And so this is back to, guys using AI to figure out the best exploits the fastest. And so the way that we combat that isn't with some kind of AI war. It is with doing updates, doing the patching, keeping things up and to date and current, and keeping things going. So, hold on, sip. Oh, you got your coffee? I'm still working towards it. All right, I've been getting a lot of slack because I actually drink tea. I'm not a coffee guy. It's called Coffee Time with Mike. So I'm just wondering, what do you guys think? Should I actually be drinking coffee? I've never really been a coffee drinker in my life. I've always been a little afraid just because, I see people, they wake up, I got to have my coffee or I just can't do anything. I don't want to become one of those people. Yeah. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think I should become an actual coffee drinker just to match the title of the live stream. Fair enough. All right, cruising on. So, some theoretical, hypothetical situations that we're talking about here and the way that this would look and could play out is number one, we don't have proper endpoint protection. We get a phishing attack, i.e. we get an email that comes in and someone says, thank you, Heather. All right, we'll check it out. Thank you guys. Yeah, Americanos rock. All right, I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with Americanos. But I'll get schooled up on coffee. I think my wife's telling me yes, so that way I'll start making her coffee. So when we look at these different situations, if we don't have the proper endpoint, we get that phishing attack. We get an email that comes in, and so basically that email lands. Somebody looks at this email and it looks legit. They click on the link, they go to it. It's a banking website or something else like that. Next thing you know, they click the wrong button. Boom! Download some ransomware. Ransomware starts flying across the machine. Next thing you know, you could have hours or possibly even days of downtime, and also the expenses. There's now a whole industry on cyber insurance to deal with things like this. Pros and cons to cyber insurance. Part of it is it really surprised me when we started working with cyber insurance companies, and they actually broker ransomware deals to get you decryption keys to unlock your systems after your data has been locked up. And so that there's just kind of like, so wait, let me get this straight. You're going to go talk to the bad guys that just locked up my system and pay them money, the terrorists, so that I can get my stuff back. Okay. Seems weird, but it's a thing. And a lot of times those things get really expensive. So there are benefits to it. It's like insurance. It's insurance. What can we say about insurance? A lot of times it's a good thing to have. I know we have all different kinds of insurance, and it's definitely helpful when we need it. And so there's that option, user inside the environment. We have users outside the environment, users sitting on their home system, and all of a sudden they get that same kind of phishing attack. Now, this time it comes in silently, and maybe that phishing attack deploys some software that then starts sniffing passwords. And so next thing they know, they get access to their VPN. And so from that access to their VPN and their login credentials to the domain from that home system, now they're able to gain access to your business systems after hours. And so if they're doing that, then, who knows what kind of data they're able to get into. And a lot of times we might be like, it's just my data. I don't have anything major top secret here. Well, it's not necessarily top secret, but we have bank account information. We have vendor information. We have different client information. And so we hold this different information. Then we have typically HR information. So it depends on the level of access. And just because one of your end users doesn't have the level of access, if that data resides in that system, it gives hackers the ability to dig deeper and find more ways of social engineering and social hacking. And so social hacking is the biggest component of this. When they send you off that email and saying, hey, reset your password at Wells Fargo because there's been a problem, and you click that link because you have a Wells Fargo account, you've been socially hacked. They didn't necessarily know that you had a Wells Fargo account, or maybe they did. It's hard to say. They pick up information all over the place. We leave trails of information everywhere. It's like using Cash App and Venmo. I still have no clue why Venmo wants every transaction you do with someone else to be public. It just makes zero sense to me. And so we have to be mindful of that on our own. These applications, a lot of times they're free applications, or the costs are hidden. And so we are actually the service. We are the marketing tool. We are the advertising for those services. And so there's a bunch of different ways that these exploits can come in, and that we can see some issues with that. So now I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to start diving into some best practices on, hold on a second. Where's my thing? Here's my thing. We got to be high speed, right? I mean, that's, let's see, trending. Okay, we are gonna, boom. Yeah, look at that. Yay, da, 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 da. Oh, I don't have my sound effects machine today. I need to figure out my sounds. All right, so let's start talking about some cybersecurity tips and best practices. Using strong passwords. Cannot emphasize that enough. And if you dig through the YouTube tubes, you can find an old video of mine, and I'll work on posting a link up on one way to create strong passwords. And so the idea is that you have a root, and then you have extensions. The extensions apply to whatever it is that you're setting it for. So those always stay the same. The roots change all the time. That way you have this ability to remember lots of passwords at one time. But, one of the things that we find with that is that, those still cannot be complex enough. We need alphanumeric, which means letters and numbers, upper and lower case, symbols, all that kind of fun stuff. And they need to be long, 10, 12, 15 characters long. And here again, LastPass. That is a great tool for doing that. That will auto-generate those, store all those. And then what happens is you only need to know the one password to get into LastPass. So you can make that one a really long, complex one. Whole phrase, I love my LastPass. This is the best tool on the planet. 1, 2, 3, exclamation point. Something silly like that. But don't use that, because that would be bad, because I just did this in a video that's live streaming. Yeah. And so the other neat thing about it is like LastPass is with you on the go. You can have it on your phone and dump into the app and get that email, or get that access to those passwords. You can view those passwords. You can share those passwords with other people. If you have other people that are needing to get into your systems, and you can make it so they don't see the password. They can just use the password. So great function there. Another big one is going to be two-factor authentication. We call it the 2FA. Some days I feel like I have 10-factor authentication, especially when I'm dealing with some of the organizations, banks, and stuff like that. And so 2FA is where I log into the website, and all of a sudden it sends me a text message of that verification code, or it sends me an email, and I got to go get a verification code. There's a couple different ways to get those. We can use authenticators. So an authenticator is an app that you put on your phone or a device, iPad, or something of that nature, or that you log into through a web browser, that then gives you the ability to get these real-time generation token codes. So just numbers, and those numbers are what we use for that secondary level of authentication. So it can get complex. LastPass can help you with two-factor authentication as well, which is a great thing. Another big cyber best practice tip here is going to be regularly updating software. And this is a big thing that you get a lean on MSPs for, you get a lean on us for, is dealing with that. And so what we can do for you, and what we do for all our clients, is that we have software in the back end that's doing the patching and doing the updates, and making sure that those updates are up to date. And the number also that they're going to work. If you're doing this on your own, you might run into that problem where, hey, I just load all the patches, and every once in a while my computer just quits working. And then you got to bring it in, and you have a day of downtime and just this whole nightmare, because those patches that you applied weren't validated for your system. And so that's another thing that we have to be mindful of. And that's just more behind the scenes on the work that we do for you guys, is checking out to make sure the patches aren't going to blow up, because we don't want them to blow up. It's a total nightmare. It's downtime. Back to the downtime. Our time, your time, time. And so patching is huge. And that's going to be not just in software, it's also in your browsers. It's going to be in your firewalls. It's just across the board. The next one is being aware of phishing attempts. Hold on. So being aware of phishing attempts, by the way, today is Earl Grey. So do they make Earl Grey coffee? I don't know. Is that a thing? But also creamers, man. I'm going to get totally into creamers if I start drinking coffee. I love creamer. Sometimes I just drink creamer. Would that be good enough just to drink the creamer? Probably not. It's not good for the waistline either. And we've been working hard on the waistline. Okay, shiny squirrel. I'll reel it back in. Beware of phishing attempts. And so the phishing attempts is, we got to educate people. A lot of people aren't familiar with that terminology, aren't familiar with how these things happen or anything else like that. We have to educate our teams, what a phishing email looks like, what suspicious links look like, how to read URLs, how to never share personal or company information in response to unsolicited requests. Somebody calls up and says, hey, are you having problems with QuickBooks? And it's like, how did you know I was having problems with QuickBooks? Because you're always having problems with QuickBooks. That's QuickBooks. And then so you call this random 1-800 number, and then they remote into your computer, and you just let them right in. I can't tell you how often we get that phone call. Not good stuff. So we do have cyber security training, and it's a lot of fun. I won't totally open the veil on that one, but we can come into your organization, start teaching your team, give them some educational stuff. There's web portals where they can get some basic learning, but then the fun begins. And that's where we get a fish attack, your own people, just to see where the vulnerabilities lie and who needs more training. So, who doesn't like a good prank cyber attack on your own people? That's what sometimes we do things like that for fun. Rodney's the man. But we get to test how good we are. The next thing is secure Wi-Fi networks. That is actually one of these things that comes up where, you get access to it. It's our zip code, or, it's like the door access code. Oh yeah, it's the zip code, or it's the building number. No, that's bad. That's bad. Like your phone number, anybody can just roll up outside the building and just like log into your network and see what's going on. We have to make sure that these things are locked down. And one of the things that we always go, well, that's going to be too difficult. What happens if I have guests in the building and I need to give them access to that? How do I deal with that easily? Well, we can generate IRQ codes that people just scan with their phone or their device, and then bada bing, bada boom, it joins them to the wireless network. And so that's an easy way without, here again, having to share that password, though the password does then technically get stored inside their device, of which then they can go see. So, we're going to have some rules about how often do we change those. And don't just let anybody on the planet walk in and get access to your Wi-Fi and your network. And also making sure that you have a proper guest network, that they're not logging into your business network. And so then the next thing that kind of moves us to is, our data backups. And so with data backups, we've talked a little bit about those in the past, but let's dig into that a little bit deeper right now. So, we have a multitude of different components to data backups. And so we have to make sure, number one, that the disk that we're storing to is a good working disk. I haven't been using this disk for the last 6 years. It's awesome. No, disks have a lifespan, just like everything else on the planet. And so we have to make sure that disk is healthy, that disk is going to work. And then we have to make sure that the backups are actually happening. And so that's eyes on the prize with that. And then we have to test that disk and say, hey, can I do a full, what we call bare metal restore? Can I restore my data, all of my data, operating systems, configurations, the whole 9 yards, to another computer system in a timely fashion? And does it work? And how long does that take? So that can give me an estimate on downtimes and stuff. So you're going to start seeing in your monthly reports, when was the last time that your test restore was done? How long did it take? And then we just get into the validity of the health and that all your drive rotations are done. And so backups are huge. And then another part of backups, and this is where we run into a lot of problems where people want to do these things themselves, right? And so what happens is if your system can see your drive, then it's vulnerable to ransom attack. And so if it gets ransomware and they ransomware your backups, that's not doing you a whole lot of good, because you can't recover from a backup that's been ransomware because it's ransomware. So it's just one of those other complexities of things that have to be done. And so how we mitigate that is we make it so that the user of which someone would have access to doesn't have access or can see the backup drives. And so with those backup drives locked away, non-visible, the ransomware can't see it either, because the ransomware is interacting as the user that's on the machine. And so that's a good component to know there, which comes back to the next one, number 7, limit users' access. And so we really need to do these audits, and I'll get to that on number 9. But limiting users' access. We don't need people to have access to everything. We need to make sure that we know what our people have access to, make sure it's the right thing for our people to have access to. And then that way we're limiting risks, because here again, if a cyber attacker is going to come in and they come in through a user profile, for them to start to elevate privileges takes an advanced mindset on the hacker, which isn't always the case. A lot of times these guys are just, people in foreign countries. They're not highly educated, but they're educated enough to be dangerous. And they're just trying to make money. They're not like, oh, I'm going to go after you directly. They are more looking to see the lowest hanging fruit and what can I get into? And that's how can they can run these scanners, they can run these different ways of attacking, and then that's how they pop in. And so that's why the updates are so critical, and that's why it's so critical to stay on top of all the patching and everything else that goes along with that. And which is, our firewalls and our antiviruses, making sure that all that's in proper lockdown mode. Because here again, if I have that all locked down properly and the user isn't able to go from computer to computer, just as the user, well, the other, malware and the other ransomware and those kind of things isn't going to be able to go to computer either. But some of our bigger tricks are when they slip in through the back doors, set up remote control software and start monitoring. We've been seeing a lot of issues with that in regards to people just breaking into people's email accounts, Office 365 accounts, right, through weak passwords. And they just hang out and they just watch that email flow. And then they can start sending these phishing emails that looks like it was the email that was supposed to come from accounting telling you to go ahead and do that wire transfer. Oh, but we did an update to the bank account it's going to. Send it now, please. This is an emergency. And next thing you know, you just wire transferred off thousands of dollars to the totally wrong person, and there's no fix for it. So those phishing attacks, man, they get evil. So cyber security training, definitely get with us on that. It's a easy, cost-effective way to get people up to speed and just make your network environments better. Another neat thing about doing cyber awareness training is it gives us this opportunity to come together as a group. We get to do that training. And then on top of that, we get a bond as a group because now we're doing something together and we have a common ground that we got to talk about, and it makes more sense. And it just brings camaraderie into the office. And also when we invest in our employees like that, the employees will do more for the companies. It's just great to have employers that provide training and, try to, go through the effort of making their employees better. And then, after we can do those, which is going to include audits, which is the fun part, which I was talking about, then we can get together and, just kind of go over how that worked out. And then, the more we become vulnerable, the more, and what I mean by vulnerable is individuals going, I really did screw that up. And then we can all learn from each other's mistakes. So that's just a win-win all the way around in my mind. The next one's going to be, developing and enforcing cybersecurity policies. And so once we get the tool set in place and you guys are using LastPass and stuff like that, there's ways to do audits on LastPass to make sure that people are following the policies, which says use LastPass. And the other neat thing, which I really like about LastPass, is LastPass, when we get a seat is the license for a user, right? You get like 5 copies of that for them to take home. So, the person at work can use it, their spouse can use it, they can, get kids using it. And so the more people we get to buy into it and use it, the more we're going to be using the tool correctly. LastPass also does dark web scans to see if the passwords that you're using have been found on any password lists that have been publicly posted. The other thing it's going to do is tell us a safety score, an overall health score. How good are your passwords? How's that working out for you? And then which ones do you need to update? Which ones have you reused too many times? And it's an easy, quick way to drink some coffee and fix the password problems that you have going on there, or tea in my case. All right, I'm getting feedback here. Coffee. All right, we're going to give it a try, I guess. I'll keep you guys posted on how that's going. Though I probably should cut back on the caffeine. I was told I was a little quick on a few things last time, so I'm trying to slow down a little bit. But to keep it rolling, so those are just some fundamental tips to really make sure that you have a robust system in regards to what you got going on there. So I'd like to go ahead and open up some Q&A questions at this time. Let's make sure I'm not on Do Not Disturb. No, I think, hit the button. Okay, button off. Boosh, there we go. Feel free to call in. I'll kick you up on speakerphone there. We can take some Q&As that are chat me something across if you got any questions about any of the cybersecurity. And so, yeah, we're really excited to be able to get out and help you guys and just help the community in so many different ways with, cybersecurity, education, helping out with emails and all that kind of fun stuff. We've had a couple of opportunities lately where we've been working with some older folks and, just being able to just help out. That's a big core of what we do. I give tons of kudos to the technicians here. You got to realize that when our phone rings, typically people are having problems. At least it used to be that way in the past, not so much anymore. And that's because we've gotten so much better at our tool set and things like that. But a lot of times people are stressed out. And so, the technicians that we have here are really great about being able to jump in. So question comes up here. How can I get more information on the cybersecurity training? Simply just reach out to us here at the office. You can do our 907-868-7300. Give a call in. Anybody here can give you a hand with that. And we can, find out the number of users you have. And from there, we can get you over the pricing on that. Additionally, why don't I do this? I will send out an email to everybody on this next go with more information on our cybersecurity flyer. And we'll get that going on. Also, sneak peek, you should be receiving our Christmas letter soon with our list from Santa. Let me know if you get those. I'm excited to see what you guys think about Santa's list for this year. All right. Okay. Well, guys, let's see. So what do we got going on here? Cybersecurity offerings. LastPass, cybersecurity training. Here again, it's as simple as a phone call into the office. And then we can also jump in and just take a peek at our website. And with our website, we can find more stuff there. Let's get that up and take a look at that real quick and see what that does for us here. Bear with me for a second. All right. And we're going to do that right there. Okay, guys. Let's take a look at this. Helps if I hit the right button. So here we go. And here's where you can find some info. And so in here, we'll see our different solutions. We have managed security as a solution. We've been doing some updates to the website. And so, we want to make sure that all of the data is properly secured. And so you can see here, we got some fun stuff. Outsourcing it. Outsourcing means that it's coming to us. Really dig in. Let us be your partner with that. Let us help out with this two-factor authentication and all that kind of fun stuff. And when you look at our website here, you're going to be able to drill in and find out more about all of these different topics and find out more information. The other thing is that we have a great number of articles and different resources here. And you can just drill right into all of these different articles. So we've been doing a lot of work on keeping a lot of information out here for you guys. And we're just trying to get we are getting our level of education up across the platform. Just because the more we know, the better off that we can support and we can continue to push stuff out there. By the way, guys, if you're looking for phones or internet service, we are also your one-stop shop for that as well. Yeah. There's good stuff going on there with the website. We're lucky for that. So here again, any more questions coming around? That would be good. Let's see. I just received another message in here. Let me take a quick look at that. Where did it go to? All right. So next up is going to be news. See, I need a sound machine. Yeah. So let me know if any of you guys have a sound machine and what do you use if you do. IT news. This was rather crazy to hear. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Boeing. Boeing makes a lot of different aircraft. They work with a lot of government contracts and military contracts. So Boeing had a data breach. They had a lock bit leak, and they leaked 50 gigs of data. So the problem with it is the majority of the data appears to include materials from the company's technical suppliers, as well as airframe manufacturing, structural components, computers, electronics, and all that other fun stuff. So as you can imagine, that's a huge, huge nightmare, especially when it comes to some of the military type information that got leaked there. And just the security issues that can involve, because here again, that's a way to heighten these phishing attacks, and that's a big reason to gather data like that, because now all of a sudden that makes Boeing's vendors more at risk, because now people can send spoof emails acting as if they're Boeing to these vendors, and the vendors are going to expect to see those emails. If they haven't gone through cybersecurity training like what we provide, they might get phishing attacked, so definitely the more you know. And so there's been quite a bit going on in cyber attacks. We're seeing a lot more of that on the rise. Last time we talked about the Bank of China, which is the world's largest bank, was cyber attacked. We also saw a handful of banks on the East Coast get cyber attacked, and that's caused a handful of different interruptions. Some of them are recovering quickly, some of them aren't. It just depends on the way that their IT infrastructures are put into place. And then, how does this affect us? Well, this can affect us in a lot of ways, in a lot of scary ways. And I'm not going to rabbit hole too far on that. But just this thought that all of a sudden, people now have intimate information about the way that systems are set up inside of Boeing, the way that the manufacturing processes happen. It just gives them the opportunity to really run some havoc on the creation of aircraft. Aircraft is the number one producer of the GDP, which is the gross domestic product for the United States. And so in other words, that's the way the US makes most of its money, is fighter jets and 747s. So that is the sum up on the news for today. So I definitely want to say thank you all for showing up. And I'll hang out for just a little bit longer if we got any more questions popping in here. It's good to see the comments coming in. Good to see the numbers coming up on the views. Really appreciate you guys here today. And I hope you find this information helpful and useful. Please, if you're even watching this after the fact, get down into the comments, leave me some feedback on this. Let me know what you guys would like to see differently, what you'd like to see in the future, anything like that. Just here to serve and here to help out and help you guys get a better understanding of all of the integral parts of IT in your environment and MSPs. And here again, managed solutions provider. Next week's live stream, which will be Wednesday at noon, and I think it's going to be coffee. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about data management and the tracking of that data inside your company. We're going to be talking about the importance of different data types, different methods for collecting data, how that data storage happens. Is it cloud-based? Is it localized? Is it databases? Is it spreadsheets? What does all that look like? How do we deal with, data analysis and reporting? How do we bring those things together? That is an ever-changing environment, which is a big struggle for a lot of folks. And looks like Google is getting a leg up on getting some things simplified for us in those regards. The next one's going to be data security and compliance. What happens if we have HIPAA? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with PCI compliance and storing? There's another thing called PI, which is personal information. How are we dealing with that from an HR standpoint? So we're going to start talking about all of these different areas of data and data systems. This is going to include our CRM systems and just how all of that comes together. And then we'll look into some of the emerging trends in data management and get into some real world examples. Open it back up for Q&A, and then I'll dig into some practical demonstrations on what that looks like. So we'll take a look at some differences between when do I use a spreadsheet versus when do I dive off into a Microsoft Access database? When do I have to get into custom application development? And so we'll take a look at all those different components and get you guys the information that you need. So as always, Michael Wheeler here, about ready to sign off. Glad that we can empower you with the IT and technology information that you need to run your business as well, to keep America great, and just keep everything cruising along. I appreciate all of you guys for showing up today, and just for your feedback, your comments, and just all the other wonderfulness that you guys have been pouring into us. I hope you all have a very safe and blessed day, and don't get lost in the snow out there. All right. Have a great day.